But in normal life, law is simply stress. Stress is, I feel under some kind of judgment. I feel hassled. I feel uncomfortable with the demands. So whenever you find yourself saying, I'm feeling real stressed, that is law. And it's usually not a matter of overwork. It's not like having too much to do. Its stress has to do with some judgment. You're feeling judged by somebody or something you're supposed to do. So whenever you hear yourself saying, or you hear somebody else saying, I'm feeling stressed, they're under the law. And that's why stress is the great paradigm of life today. It's simply what we mean when he says law. So now let's read verse 21 again together. I'm getting kind of wound up. I need to, now let's really, hey, let's just check out, let's just, hey, you know, whatever, this is all, you know, not really important, and hey, you know, Margaritaville. Now, verse 21, where were we, Mary, where the Jimmy Buffett guy was doing karaoke? Wasn't it in Seaside, Florida? We had the funniest situation. We were down in Florida, and it was freezing cold. It was a cold snap in November, and we went to some shishi restaurant in a place called Watercolor. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Watercolor. Really nice restaurant. I wanted Mary to have a nice meal. She makes better meals, but mine are non-existent. And we went, and this guy, it was freezing cold in Florida, and by the swimming pool, this guy was doing a karaoke version of Margaritaville. It was just right out of a nihilistic, existential Fellini movie. Verse 21, let's read it. Turned out it was like, 70 degrees in Chevy Chase. Now, but now, read it again, the righteousness of God has been manifested apart from law, although the law and the prophets bear witness to it. Oh, if I could put this in easy terms, I would say we believe in the Old Testament. It gave us continuity with God's work before Christ came and God's people before Christ came, but there has been a break. There is a caesura, a cut at the New Testament. Why? What is the word that tells you something different has happened? It's a little phrase that occurs in the sentence. What's the phrase that tells you that something new is afoot? Apart from. Apart from. The word in Greek is choris. Chi, omega, rho, iota, sigma. It's a fraternity. The word is choris, and it means apart from or detached from, disconnected from. So apparently, the identity of a human being to be in reconciled relationship with what is has been manifested apart from performance, apart from all the different things I've said. Now, if that were true, that would be really great, because it would mean that stress were destroyed. It would mean that there is that stress is a chimera. It is a fantasy. It doesn't actually have any bearing on the thing that it is designed to do. You've heard the old thing of Einstein. He said it a million times. You can't solve the problem you're in using the means by which you got into the problem. You've heard it. It's every shrink in Washington will tell you this. You can't, every clergyman may, but Einstein did say it. You can't solve a problem by means of the tools that got you into the problem. Something new has to be given for you to solve a serious problem. This is why, I was talking to somebody the other day. He said, a wonderful friend, he said, I have a problem that I'm dealing with in my career, my work, and I've just decided if I just work harder and run faster and do more emails at home, I'll win it. Now, I quoted him. I started saying, well, somebody once said, I know what you're going to say, he said. You're going to talk about Einstein. It was very funny. He jumped the gun. And I said, this is what St. Paul says. If you want to know how to find security, it's not going to come from work. It's not going to come from some effort. All that will do is exhaust you. Especially if it's under stress, you will become exhausted. Have you ever tried to please someone who you desperately want to love you, who basically doesn't love you? If you've ever tried actively to get a response of love out of someone who just doesn't love you, it never is going to work. It just won't until something changes in them. You can climb to the top of the Empire State Building and down 1,000 times, but if they don't actually have it in themselves to love you, it's never going to succeed, ever. You pray for a change of heart on the part of the person and just wait. Now, apart from law, so what this is saying is there has to be something else. Well, what verse 22 is what it is. I'm going to say what it is, talk about verse 22, and then finish. Verse 22, let's just read that. The righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ for all who believe, for there is no distinction. What St. Paul came to understand in a very specific way was that if you can't get the response you want by means of performance or any other yardstick you can imagine which would give you control, you have to stop. Stop. Complete stoppage. All efforts stop. Efforts to get him to love you, stop. Efforts to succeed, stop. If they're not working, just stop and let someone else. And here's where he had come to believe in a very vivid way that he'd heard it and seen it and felt it in this man. This man indicated that he loved people not on the basis of what they brought to the equation. We think people love us on the basis of what we bring to the equation. He, obviously, why do we know this? Because he said, I didn't call the righteous. He didn't call people who were in control. He didn't call people who had this, that, or the other thing about themselves. He specifically said, no, they're fine. But I didn't call them. I came to call sinners. I came to call normal people. I came to call failures. I came to call weaklings and all the different ways you want to describe it. And the fun of it was he discovered that everybody actually felt that way. It wasn't just people on the so-called margins. You know, I can say, oh, well, those people over there are on the margins because I've decided they represent a group that's on the margins. Come to find out, everybody feels they're on the margins. Everyone in this room, in some form or another, believes that he or she is an outsider. Now, you may not think that. Maybe you think you're an insider. But I only met one time, and she was the sister of Barbara Streisand. And then I discovered that she hadn't actually said that to me. She had said, I'm not an insider. And I thought she said, I am an insider. So it just shows you. What you find out, that actually everybody feels that they're one of the outsiders to whom Jesus Christ came. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you the example of Steve Perry. Now, if you know, this time I'm going to ask, only the men in this group will know who this is, but a few women who know the men may. Who here immediately knows who a particular artist named Steve Perry is? Raise your hand. Not only men, thank you, a very small group. Steve Perry. Well, he is the lead singer, as you well know, of the greatest rock and roll group of all time, called Journey. They are, you're supposed to laugh hysterically. I'd say that to my acolytes, but I do believe it. I not only think it's a ridiculous thing to say, it's a ridiculous thing to say that music stopped with Journey. There's nothing more to be said after Journey, but it's also true. The irony is it's both true and ridiculous, but a lot of things are. I'm true and ridiculous, but emphasis on the ridiculous.